Well, it wouldn't be YouTube if I didn't, jump on the bandwagon here and create a rant video about AI art and death metal and capitalize on the views and the clicks because, I'm a content creator. So a couple days ago, it was announced and shown the new DSI cover album for the new DSI cover art for the new album that's coming out. I don't remember when it's coming out. I don't remember any of the details, but I was pretty turned off by this new release. I mean, besides from the fact that the single that they released sounds not great, I just wasn't into it. And also from the fact that DSI hasn't really sounded the same since their heyday. One of the few legendary death metal bands where I don't love everything that they've put out in their newer discography. The few exceptions here have been Obituary and Incantation and Cannibal Corpse and Dying Fetus. They all released, awesome albums last year, as everybody knows. But okay, so I have a lot of friends who are artists, especially friends that do artwork for metal bands in particular. I also have a bit of a background in art. When I first went to college, I went to school for graphic design and fine illustration. I went to the International Academy of Design and Technology in Chicago. I went there for a year and then I changed course to IT after I realized this was more of just a hobby. It wasn't much of a passion for me. And also because I hated school and technology. Computers it was more fascinating for me at the time. I knew it was a moneymaker, etc., etc. Funny, I say that now, and I've been laid off. But anyway, but art has always been a thing of mine that I absolutely love. I did an internship at the Art Institute of Chicago. I've had aunts that retired there after working for 50 years. I just have a really big appreciation for it. And artwork in death metal is a big reason why I love death metal. It's definitely an added bonus here. And I think it creates a scenery for what you're listening to. And there's just always been that aspect of this in extreme metal where there's these artists that are creating this picture and this atmosphere for you. And some of the most legendary artists are the people that you recognize on these legendary albums, like Ed Repka, so there's my cat, Mark Riddick, and then now the ones that are really starting to blow up in the scene, Matt Stryker, James Buscema, just a couple to be named. I know Brad Moore is another one. So there's a lot of artists out there. And there's a lot of what you say starving artists, the ones that just want to get their artwork out there. They just want people to know who they are. They don't necessarily charge a lot of money for it, if any. And then there are the ones who are a little bit more prominent, who also have a little bit more of a success rate, who probably charge quite a bit more. I don't know any of the personal pricings on some of these legendary artists. I can't speak to that. But for me personally, when I created my YouTube channel, I went through an artist named Latif, or as everybody knows, Rotting Head on Instagram. Him and I talked back and forth for a couple of days about what I wanted for my logo and my artwork for my channel. He sent me some proofs and I loved it. And that is like a relationship that you build with somebody when you're creating a brand and also when you're, creating music. And he did not charge me a lot of money at all. I think I only spent like $50, and I know that that's really cheap considering. He's a great artist. You should definitely check him out. He's done a lot of other work. Does not just like logos and stuff. He does actual album covers. And then there's several artists in the scene that I've talked to, that I have a relationship with here, that I try to support as much as possible. The AI art stuff is just, it's bound to happen. It was bound to happen. It's not surprising in the least about the fact that people are doing this. AI is just taking over right now, especially like within the tech space with the, what my background is in terms of career. We were incorporating AI into a lot of the work that I've done, especially when it came to like conversational AI, like writing documents and stuff like that, and as well as AI for cybersecurity, so tracking trends and putting in this machine learning aspect to it. So there's a lot of good that comes with AI, and whether it be somebody of a large corporation that's using it, like I said, for cybersecurity attacks, or if it's helping you write a cover letter. Hey, I'm guilty of that. I don't always have a good sense of grammar, or what I want to say, and it's definitely been helpful within several things of my career. But there are also those negative aspects of it, and I really, really, really am disappointed that DSI used an AI to create their album cover. And I know they don't give a fuck, and I know that they could care less, and it's obvious because I've been seeing like they've gotten quite a bit of backlash on social media, and they've been blocking people who are calling them out on social media. And it's their I get it. It's their music, it's their career. They can do whatever they want. Nobody said they had to find an artist to use for their artwork. So just hear me out on that. I totally get it, but at the same time, for a band that's been in the scene for as long as they have, and they understand the importance of this and what it does for people's lives, and how it can really help out that creativity and keep this portion of art alive, you would think that they would give care less about that cost aspect of it. I don't even know if that was the reason behind it. Who knows? I mean, maybe somebody might come out within their PR or whoever they have managing their band. I don't know. Admittedly, I'm not that close to the DSI worship, but and they might explain why they did what they did. But it's disappointing. And for me personally, for a band that is trying to cut corners to save money, I guess it makes sense, and this is usually how it is. And even like schools, they immediately cut the art aspect of it. But it also makes me question the integrity of the music that's going to also happen in the future. Like, are they gonna just use AI to write guitar riffs because it's possible and people do that, or to clean up their vocals, etc., which some people argue, how is that different than mixing and mastering? It's a lot different because they're not actually doing it themselves. They're not actually physically like playing the guitar or anything like that. So there's a lot of things that people have thrown at me in the last several days. Well, who cares? You're buying the music. You're there to listen to the music. You're not there to listen to the art. And I get that. And there's probably a lot of people that are going to feel that way, which is why they don't care. They just don't understand why this is so upsetting, because all they care about is listening to music. But for me personally, that is not what death metal or extreme metal is solely. I mean, obviously the music, yes, solely is about, but there is that aspect of the artwork and the atmosphere, like I pointed out in the beginning of this video, that comes along with it. And it's been so ingrained into the culture of this music, and I worry that it's going to start to be a trend and just absolutely blow up the art scene here. And these artists, they create this artwork that is specifically very niche for this specific genre of music. And yeah, they're talented. I'm sure they can create artwork for other types of music or other candidates or clientele. But this definitely helps out their portfolio. And when you're an artist and you get artwork on, say, a Cannibal Corpse album that is going to be very popular, people remember that artwork. They remember who that artist is. They're consistently talking about them. That's the exposure that they deserve and should be shouted out for. And you just completely remove that. So I strongly oppose bands using AI art, but I do have one caveat to that. If you are an underground band who is very limited on funding, you don't have a label deal, you're paying everything out of pocket yourself, you're really young, maybe you haven't graduated high school yet, or you're still in college, or just in general don't have a very solid funding flow, I can understand that. But there's also ways around that too. A lot of people, the suggestions I've seen out there, like draw it yourself, which not everybody has that. So it doesn't always look great. Um, and to that, I have an example of that, and I'll show it to you at the end of the video because I realized I didn't pull it off my shelf just now. But you can take photos and use a photo for your album cover, like a simple point and shoot cell phone. You can create a lot of atmosphere and artwork just through an iPhone picture. Throw it into Photoshop or any sort of photo editing software, and you can add layers and filtering to it and create an album cover if you're trying to cut corners and not. But if you want something that looks badass and super aggressive and death metal, I get why they would resort to using an AI. I'm sure there's free AI services out there. I don't really know of any that creates artwork other than like the Microsoft Bing AI, which is fucking terrible. I don't know if Google has one. There's so many out there now. But I have been reading some of like the pricing plans, and sometimes it only costs like $40 to use the service for a month. So I get it. Like if you're a new up and coming band, you legitimately have no budget, then I can understand why you would resort to that. But I also know there are artists out there that would totally do it for free because all they care about is the exposure and to have it into their portfolio, especially if they're a newer artist who doesn't have as much of a recognition to their name, not many people know who they are, etc. And you kind of have to hunt for those people. I've had a lot of friends in, like, personal, really close friends of mine who are artists. This is what they do for a living. They have done a lot of that. They create art for anybody, and they do it sometimes for free because that exposure is what they're looking for. And I get that, and you kind of have to hunt around for it. But so I can understand like that side of it, and maybe that's why somebody would do it. But for a band like Deicide, and for a band like Morta Scold, who's another one that recently used AI art, who I think is on Peaceville, if I'm not mistaken. I could be wrong about that. I'll correct it up here somewhere if I'm wrong. There's got to be some sort of a budget in place. Like, these labels have been around for forever. They know how this works. They know what goes into it. And Deicide has worked with so many other artists in the past. Like, it's hard to believe that they wouldn't want to go back to that. So I don't know like what decision was made around it. I don't know the background of it, but it was disappointing. And so there's a lot of people that are raging about it. Me personally, I've been raging about it. I think it looks like trash, and when I first saw it, I thought it was kind of a cheesy cover. It didn't really fit the mold. It looked like I wasn't a fan of it to begin with, and then it just made me even less of a fan when I found out it wasn't an actual artist. And yeah, so funny thing is, I was talking about this in a group chat with a bunch of my friends that I have on Instagram. We're all metalheads. This is all we do is talk all day long. And one of them made some artwork for me with AI, and it looks cool. He made it swampy because I'm from Florida, and it's very accessible, and yeah, you can do it. And there's no copyright laws around this. Like, this is just pulling a collection of images and machine learning and making this stuff. So anybody can claim this artwork as their own and make money off of it. So there's also like that aspect of it. Like, it's now DSI going to do some sort of copywriting with this album cover, which I'm sure they probably have to go through. I don't know the process around that. But yeah, there's also that. There's a lot of regulations around AI art that still need to be put in place. So I would also think that would kind of just be a risk for the bootlegging and the merchandise bootlegging and stuff like that they would want to worry about, but maybe they just don't care. Obviously they don't care because they did it. So curious to know like what everybody's thoughts on this. I know there's going to be that base that's just like, they just don't care. It doesn't matter to them. And that's totally fine. Like, nobody's saying you're completely wrong on this, but I do want to say, if you are a band or a label, really seriously consider how you're going to impact the scene and these creators, these artists. If you continue down this path, don't set a precedent, because it's ridiculous. Like, and I know there's a handful of people that watch me that really don't like illegal immigrants, and they probably yell at the cloud and say they're stealing our jobs, and well, AI is stealing our jobs. So think of it that way too. Playing devil's advocate here. I don't think that, but I know that I do have some people that watch me that definitely think down that path of that very politicized, opinionated thought on job stealers, just because either I know you personally or just based off of how you've perceived and commented on my shit in the past when anything remotely political comes up in the comments. So just kind of think of that too. But yeah, DSI fucking garbage. Probably not going to buy the album now. I wasn't a fan of their last couple anyway. The band just really has fallen off for me. Obviously, legendary, iconic band in the scene. They have some of my favorite death metal albums. I've talked about it on here several times. Don't need to talk about them as a whole and what they mean. But I can honestly say pretty disappointed about this. Pretty disappointed about More to Scold. And going to stick to the digital streaming of this for now. Don't have any desire to buy those albums. But I will definitely check them out and listen to them just because curiosity. But curious to know what everybody's thoughts are. I had fully planned on recording a really large ranting video where I just sweared at the camera the whole time and screamed and yelled, and kind of blended it as a Justin Horville and Mordant Red video and just mixed all of that type of personality. But at the same time, it's not really who I am. But I think it's fucking stupid. And I think it's absolute garbage that bands are doing this, especially ones that are on larger labels, the ones that are a little bit more legendary. I tried to be a little bit more open-minded when it comes to shit and understand that obviously, yes, somebody doesn't want to spend between $100 and maybe $3,500. I don't know. There's probably a big range here. It really depends on the artist. If they're dumping all of their money into instruments and studio time, as well as traveling for tours, because they have to pay for a van and they have to pay for gas and food and stuff like that. So cutting a corner like that, I get it. I understand why you would do it. But also, if you're a fucking deicide, why? Like, doesn't make any sense. So, and at the same time, I find it very hard to believe that they would have had a hard time paying out $300 for a nice album cover. I mean, maybe, who knows? I don't know. But they might say something, I don't know. So far, it's just been ignored from what I've seen. And literally, this is how I know it's being, like, flushed out, is the image popped up, and there was, like, 30 comments of people just ripping them apart about having it being AI art. And then I checked that same exact post today, and all those comments are gone. So they're removing comments. They don't want people, they don't, like, and just own it. Like, at this point, just own it. Like, why do that? Everybody sees it, and that just looks shittier. Like, just fucking come on and be like, yeah, we used AI art, deal with it. We shouldn't have to explain our decision around it, and I get that, and they have every right to do that. But at the same time, just own it then. Because to me, it looks like you're ashamed of decision you made, because you're going through, whoever on your team, your social media team or whoever, is going through and removing these comments, and they're blocking people on Twitter, which I've seen that. Which those people on Twitter probably deserve to be blocked. I'm sure they just were being assholes to them straight up. But yeah, just own it. So just own it. So that's all that I had today. I do want you to stay 1 minute. Let me show you just one thing. So Ken, I don't know if you're still watching my videos. I have no idea. I know that you subscribe to me. But I always think about this whenever somebody brings up AI art. Like, why don't you just draw your own fucking artwork? And Ken's band Unnatural, this is his demo that he sent me a while back. He did this album artwork for the demo. And I always think about the stream that he did. I don't remember if it was with Mark Riddick or who it was with, but he talked about how he just drew that. And obviously it's not the best work in the world, but like, come on, you can draw your own album art. I always think that, like, they did it. A lot of bands do it. and you can create something just to get out there. But again, album art also is, I would say a lot of people want album art to be eye-catching, and they want it to be like, people seem like, whoa, what is that? I'm going to listen to that. It looks awesome. So I get why they didn't take this approach. But I always think about that. So I just thought I would do some show and tell here. But okay, anyway, that's all I have. I'll see you guys in the next one.